how could I say no?
Yeah, yeah. And I appreciate you. I just wanted to give a little prelude. For those of you who aren't as familiar with Rick as Sam and I am. I mean, he says he loves his day job, and he specializes in not specializing, which is one of the best quotes I've ever heard from somebody. He's written. Are you on book 44 yet, or are you still at
It is
40?
it is 44, our latest book, Wild
Okay,
Wanderers.
okay, that's
Yeah,
great.
still well, you know what? The thing is, Kevin, I type fast. This is the key to writing a lot of books. You have
Yeah,
to type fast. And then once you're done, don't read the book.
exactly. Yeah. Are you sure you don't dictate them?
No, I was thinking of doing that, but I actually I do type, even though I got an F in typing in high school, and I wish I had my report card. I wish that teacher was around. I'd send her one of my books.
That's fantastic. Well, for those of you again who may not be as familiar with Rick, he's an author, workshop leader, speaker, educator, photographer. Um, one of the accomplishments that I personally enjoy from Rick is his prolific lessons on Kelby One. If you follow Scott Kelby and the Kelby One folks, he's done, I think, over 45 online classes with more to come.
Well, you're
So
good with the numbers, my friend. You know,
I do what I can. I do
yeah,
my
he does. See, I respect the guy who does his research.
well, thank you. Well, today, guys, you're in for a real treat because so you probably know if you're here that we're a few months into what we call our 52-week challenge, and each week we release a new assignment for you that enables you to either go back into your back catalog or ideally shoot fresh images based on the assignment. So Rick has graciously agreed to go through a kind of a breezy image review, give his opinions and his thoughts and suggestions on the submissions we received in February. So he's going to be covering still life, one color, diagonals, and high key. So hopefully some of you on the session here have submitted some images, and Rick will certainly be looking through them and selecting his favorites or ones that he has some constructive comments on. So Rick, with that as a prelude, why don't you go ahead and share your screen and
Okay,
uh, and get the show on the road?
okay, I think I'm sharing, correct? It says stop share. It
Oh
says you
yeah,
are
okay.
No, no, you're
okay.
sharing.
Okay, go for it.
Yes. Okay, so anyway, guys, thanks again for having me, and all you great SlickPic customers. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sending in your pictures. Although this is not my favorite thing to do, again, because it's so subjective, it is a really great way to learn. Kevin did mention, like he does his research. I listen. He said constructive criticism. So I wouldn't say it's really constructive criticism, but it's just, my thoughts. So, talking about, everything is subjective. This is actually one of my favorite pictures because I'm a musician. So I'm attracted to this picture. But I also think that it's pretty creative the way the reflection of the eighth notes there and the quarter note are reflected in the spoons there. So I think it's very creative. However, Ansel Adams was big on black and white. And when he talked about black and white, he said that contrast is king. And I think this is really important to remember that in black and white photography, contrast is king. So this picture, although I like the mood and the feeling, and mood really does matter most. This picture could have a little more impact if the contrast was boosted a little bit. So my saying is that if you boost the contrast a little bit, I think you'll be a little happier with your photographs. But the key is this. You don't want to boost it too much to the point where the highlights are blown out. So we see the little reflections on the tip of the spoons there. So you don't want to boost it too much. You could do that selectively, boost the contrast selectively in Photoshop with a layer mask or whatever. So what I would suggest to this creative photographer is to bring this picture into Photoshop or Lightroom and then adjust the levels. Look at that histogram. And my guess is, I think I'm pretty close to being right, that on the right side where the highlights are shown, you're going to see a little gap. You're going to see a little gap. So if you move that triangle slider over to the left, you'll have the whites being white. And that's the point. That's the point of looking at the histogram. And Ansel Adams was big on that. He wanted the whites to be whites and the blacks to be blacks. So the blacks are not really black here. The blacks are gray. So anyway, that's just something to think about. When I think about still lifes, I look at a picture, I say, you know, what picture would I really like to take? And I think it's this is one of my favorites here. I think it's very creative. You know, talking about famous photographers, Edward Weston, if you don't know him, do a search. He did a photograph of a pear in his kitchen, probably one of the most famous black and white classic photographs ever taken. So this picture, although that picture was in color, in black and white, this picture in color reminds me of that. And the other, you know, one of our goals as a photographer and in still lifes, it's kind of hard to do, is to add a sense of motion, add a sense of motion to a still picture, also to add a sense of depth and dimension. So this still life to me has a sense of motion because the way the leaves are, and it has a sense of depth and dimension. Another tip is, I could just go through this whole thing, by the way, quoting other photographers. And Frank Dorhoff, we talk about shadows, and you know, he says shadows are your friend, and they are. But also, this is important. Andre Feiniger, who I interviewed in 1980 before Kevin was born, he had an expression: light illuminates, shadows define. Light illuminates, shadows define. So yeah, you could see that this picture is a really good illustration of light illuminates, shadows define. And that's what adds impact to this picture. This picture has the same thing. It has nice shadows. And I think the blacks are really black in here. So I would say this exposure is right on. It also kind of tells like a little bit of story how these forks are intertwined. But look at this reflection here. There's another shot in here that this one. I like the reflection here. And you know, someone might look at this and say, oh, it's not perfect. You have this little nut on this screw here. Well, I really like that nut on that screw because it just, you know, Art Wolf, another famous photographer, I'll quote him. He says, you know, when you're looking at something, a group of things, look for one thing that's different. So that's the one thing different about this image. So the point, another point here is, you know, and I like the reflection, is, you know, as photographers, we need to look all around the image. We have to look into the image. You know, Ansel Adams, I'm going to continue with my quotes. Ansel Adams had a great photo saying. He said, a photograph should be looked into and not at. So in looking at this picture, which I love, I like the mood, I like the feeling. I'm looking into this picture. The one thing that I would do personally, and this is all again subjective, is I would take out this little bird box, bird feeder. Although it's nice there, that's one thing I would do. But the main thing I would do is this. If we go back and look at this picture, all the screws are separated. When we look at this, a lot of the leaves are separated. So one of the things we try to do look at the spoons here. Each one is perfectly separated. One of the things we try to do as photographers is to try to seek separation. Kevin mentioned that I have a lot of classes. I think it's more than 45 on Kelby 1. I have a class called Sammonisms, and it's all my one-liners. And one of my one-liners is seek separation. So I think this is a very nice picture. Mood matters most, but if the photographer had moved a little bit to their left, this line wouldn't be going through this candle, this lantern, and this line would be totally isolated. So in other words, if these were out in the open here, in the open spaces of the window, and you don't have to agree with this, because as Yo-Yo Ma said, this might be the last quote I use, but probably not. He said, expression, this is my favorite one. Expression is more important than perfection. Expression is more important than perfection. And he came up with that because he was playing a concert when he was young. He realized he was playing it perfectly, absolutely, not a mistake. No one on the planet could play it better. And he was totally bored. And he said, okay, this is where I really have to put I really have to put more expression into it. So this picture does have a lot of expression, and mood does matter most. But for me, and I do like the little reflections down here, I would have moved over a little. I never, when I'm thinking about a picture in my mind, separate the background from the main subject. I separate them, either by blurring the background or whatever. But here they're like kind of like blending in together. I talked about, adding that third dimension to a picture, sense of depth. If these were over just a little if the photographer had moved a little to the left, I think it would have had a greater sense of depth and dimension. There's a lot of good pictures here. I know the person who took this picture, and they follow the golden rule of photographing watches, where you want the little hand at 10 and the big hand at 1 or 2 o'clock. But I think because the reflection is really hard to get, so that's good. But I think if the photographer had used the marquee tool, right, and selected this and just pulled up curves, that would have been brighter, because when we look at a picture, our eye goes to the brightest part of the picture first, usually. So what's the brightest part? Well, here's the brightest part, and here's the second brightest part. So the boulevard, if this was an ad for Boulevard, and the art director was looking at this very nice picture on the laptop, the art director would probably say, well, I want the face to be a little brighter. This picture, wait, there were two pictures that had something in common here that I thought was kind of cool. Let me see. I think it was. I like this picture. There's a lot going on. There's not separation, but I like the color. All the colors here add a lot of impact to it. But I don't think the leaves around the edges are just haphazardly, thrown in there. I'm tempted to, sorry, well, Ansel Adams said a picture's not done until you darken the edges. See, when you're as old as I am, you have all these things in your mind, for now anyway. So what he's talking about is adding a vignette. Well, these leaves, and that will draw your eye to the main subject. So these beautiful leaves, they don't add a vignette, although they are a little darker. They do draw your eye and my eye right to the center of the image. That's something to think about. Not only do we need to look at the background. I use something that I call I used to call it border patrol. Now I call it edge patrol, where I'm looking at a picture and I run my eyes like this one around the edge of the picture to see, what do I want in and what do I want out. This is a very nice picture. I think I would have darkened the background here. The other thing is, I don't know if it's the table or the window. I think the picture might be a little lopsided. It looks like it's going downhill here, and the candle's going a little to the left. Now that might have been the way it is, but if you're thinking about doing something, technically perfect, you could straighten, because the perception of a straight horizon line is different than how it looks in a photograph. This amazing picture. This is a high key shot. I know we're coming up with some high key pictures in just a little bit, but I really think this is really, really a cool shot. I'm going to give, okay, here. Another one of my Sammonisms is the name of the game is to fill the frame. In other words, fill the frame with fill every inch of the frame with something interesting. This picture illustrates this. This picture illustrates what happens when you don't listen to that Sammonism. It's a beautiful picture. So in other words, my friends, there's something to be said for dead space. There's something to be said for negative space. So I really like that picture. Kevin, if I'm spending too much time, same thing here. These all around here, it kind of draws your interest to the fruit bowl here. If I'm spending too much time on one gallery, let me know.
You're all good.
Okay, there's a picture here that we could all learn a lot from. This one. Okay. Talking about light illuminates, shadows define. This picture really illustrates this technique. I really, really like this picture. So here's an assignment I'm giving all my friends who are tuning in right now. Kevin, is this going to be recorded so people could watch later?
It is.
Okay, so for those of you who are watching live and who are watching this after the fact, here's the assignment. Take an egg and find some kind of support and put it by a kitchen window and photograph it from, straight on, from the left and from the right, and then from behind. And you'll see how the light shapes that egg and how it looks totally different with different types of lighting. And speaking of assignments, there's something else in here that, okay, that gave me this gave me the idea for this. This is a very nice picture. Paul, you did a very nice job if you're watching. So along with the egg assignment, try this. Get a cup of coffee, or a cup of tea that's really hot, and put it by a window in your kitchen or your den, or you shouldn't have any liquid around your computer because it could spill over into the keyboard, which I've seen. Kevin's laughing because he's probably seen this on the workshops. But anyway, photograph that steam with your camera facing right into the light, and then from the left and the right, and then away. Looks totally different. So here's the thing. What you learn in one area of photography, you can apply to another. So in other words, you can say, oh, big deal. I'm going to photograph steam, with a light from the left or right and shooting into it and away from it. Well, if you go to a waterfall and you see the mist coming up, right, you'll see how different it looks from these different angles. So while we're going through these pictures here, think about this. It's called what I call photo cross training, which is what you learn in one area you could apply to another area. This is a beautiful, beautiful picture. I like the way the names are really small here. I just did a post. I was on someone's website, and across like the whole thing in the middle, a giant copyright symbol, copyright in the person's name. You want to turn someone off, including me? Post your pictures that way. I would say this kind of follows my egg theory. I really like there's something about reflections. So this is really nicely done. This it's really, I can't, yeah, look at the detail on this. Everything in the scene is in focus, which is really, really cool. These two, this one, I would like to, well, I was just talking about everything in the scene in focus. For me, this, it's a little too out of focus up here. But that in mind, there's an expression, 1 out of focus is a mistake. 20 out of focus pictures is a style. So if you want a portfolio with a style, try that. Here's another picture. Man, look at the move. This has some nice movement to it. And the difference in the color. So we don't have not only contrast, this looks like an intentional camera movement shot, which is beautiful. We don't not only have the contrast in brightness levels, but in the color. So I think this is a very creative shot. So, and this, I think I might crop this a little more. I have a friend, Gary Potts, who would come on my workshops. And at the beginning of all my workshops, I say to people, what's your goal? And Gary would say on every workshop, I want to make pictures with impact. I'm not going to take a picture unless it has impact. So this picture, as nice as it might be, photographed on an angle with nice shadows and highlights, I think it would have more impact if we cropped it a little tighter. And before we move on to the next category, remember I said I use formerly known as a Border Patrol. Although this is probably a crack in the wood there, it looks like a hair on the sensor. So again, we want to run our eyes around the edge of the frame to see what do we want in and what do we want out. Okay, that was 20 minutes 5. So we have 6, 7, and 8, right, Kevin? Right? Week 6, 7, 8. Yes. Oh, he's muted. Okay.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. The category here is color. Okay. Remember I talked about the histogram? I could see by looking at this, even though it might have been a flat day, the picture looks a little flat. So I would boost the contrast a little. But what I really like about this, it's not really an S curve, it's which is Ansel Adams made famous in his Snake River picture, and taking the Grand Tetons. It's like a Z curve. It's not a Z curve. There's no such thing as a Z curve, but it's a pattern Z. So the different layers there will create a sense of depth and dimension. And again, what we can do, one way we can add a sense of depth and dimension to a still picture is by using layers. You know, we've all seen pictures like this, and they're all nice for color. But look, talk about images with impact. Uh, I'm looking at this picture and I say, what is it? And I don't know what it is, and I don't have to know what it is. I just like the blue and the green and this negative space over here and this line here. I would say if I was looking in this category for a picture that's really different from most of the pictures here, I would say that is it. Another picture that illustrates dead space. And I think some people might have photographed this and not included this pattern here. But this pattern, the theme is color. It kind of mirrors this. And I like the texture in the wall. Another tip is a dead center is deadly. In other words, if the subject's in the center of the frame, your eye gets stuck on that subject, it doesn't move around. But when the subject's off center, what happens is that your eye looks at that and looks around the frame to see what else is going around. So this person's been to Thailand or one of these places where they have these beautiful statues of Buddha. I think that's what it is. I could be wrong. Like the bumper stick I had on my VW van in 1968, it said I could be wrong. So anyway, I like this really fits the theme, one color. And I like that, the fingers and the fingernails, it's like creates kind of like a V pattern in here, which I know our friend Ian Plant, who hosted this a while ago, was into. Here's another example. This is a Steptoe Point in out in the Palouse, I think. But look at this S curve here. Your eye is going through this, and getting back to that set. Oh, I think this person posted a picture in the other category, which is fine. Again, getting back to what Ansel Adams said, a picture should be looked into and not at. There's a lot to look at in this picture. My eyes following this around. And again, that dead center is deadly thing phrase really is important. There's nothing dead center here. We have the tree over here. We have these trees over here. So creating a sense of movement is really, really a cool thing. I don't know how the person did this, maybe with one of those spheres, or it could have been done in Photoshop. I really like this. I really like this picture. Again, there's a lot to look at, and it's different. So if you have a website, if you have a SlickPic website, and you want people to stop scrolling, or if you post something on on Facebook or X or Insta or whatever, do something different. Try to follow what my friend Gary Potts said, that he wants to make an image with impact. And again, light illuminates, shadows define. Look at the shadows here. I think he's playing an E minor chord, by the way. Let me look at a few more pictures that let me see. Okay, look how sharp this is. And again, this is all subjective. So please remember that. But this picture is the subject's dead center. I break that rule all the time. But if this was cropped where maybe the bird, usually what's going on behind a subject isn't that interesting. So is this interesting to anybody watching, viewing? My guess is not. So if this was cropped with the bird, looking to its to the left, I think it would be really cool. It's a great capture, of course. So if I don't know if you could see, Kevin, can they see my little cursor here? I don't know. Yes. Okay,
Yes,
I
yes,
would
I think so.
so I would crop this. This is really interesting. This is interesting. This isn't interesting. I don't know what this big blob is in the back. Um, so maybe you want to think about this. If it doesn't add, take it out, right? Does this add? Does this add? You know, does this add? And you get a picture with more impact. I think this picture also could use a little boost in contrast, but certainly not in sharpness. Speaking of which, I use Topaz Sharpen, which is an amazing sharpening program. And what that lets you do is say you open this image in Topaz Sharpen. Uh, if you click on one of the little things that subject select, it just selects the subject and lets you sharpen just the subject. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, if you sharpen the whole thing, there's some noise in the back. There's some grain in the back. Why would you want to increase the noise and grain in the back? I don't think you'd want to do that. Although noise can add. Again, everything's subjective. So anyway, that Topaz Sharpen really lets you see, I think this picture now has a lot more lot more impact. I didn't know I could do that. Oh, this is a very cool shot, one color. A tip for wildlife photographers is like wildlife photography is see eye to eye and shoot eye to eye. So in other words, when you're looking at the subject eye to eye, the person looking at the photograph can relate more to the subject than if you're looking down or looking up. So right here, the photographer was skilled enough to get down right on the subject's eye level, right? So you're seeing eye to eye and shooting eye to eye. Very, very cool shot. I like this, the plane going on the diagonal. And here, the sky is obviously not white, but here I think it works. I really like the way the sky looks. Maybe could use a little bit of sharpening. Let me see what else we have here. I want to go back because I forgot to say something on week 5, and I think we're doing okay on time. It's this picture. So first of all, I'd love to be here. I think it'd be really cool to just walk around. But when we look at a picture, I think we have to ask ourselves, I think it's important to ask ourselves this question: what's the subject? So what is the subject here? I think this might be the subject, but it's kind of like too much in the dead center. And there's too much going on. So I think if the photographer had, looked a little closer and, this picture cropped like this. Cropping gives us a second chance at composition, which I think is really cool. I have what's called, as Kevin knows, I have what's called OCD, obsessive cropping disorder. And all of my pictures, I would say 98% of my pictures or more are cropped because again, if it doesn't add, take it out. And look how cool this picture is. Look how sharp this peach is. Look how sharp the knife. And I don't know how the photographer created this effect here, but I sure would like to know. So actually, everyone who comes to one of my seminars is a student for life. So you can email me a question or tell me one of your secrets by sending me an email, and it's Rick Sammon, Sammon, ricksammon@mac.com. And I answer all my emails. I can't answer everything on Facebook and Insta and everything like that. But if you do that, I could also send some information on some of my new books. And this is really a cool shot. Manny, you did a great job on that. I like the background. Again, the background can make or break the picture. So that background, because it's separating the subject from the black, adds a little bit of depth and dimension to the picture. So 5, 6 is color. We have 6, 7, and 8, right, Kevin? Oh, we did that. We did 6. Uh, hold on. Week 7.
Yeah, 6,
Okay.
7.
Yeah. Okay. So the category here is diagonals. Okay. Let me just scroll through these and find. Okay. I've been here. Okay. These are the this is the reclining Buddha in, I think in Sri Lanka, which unfortunately we can't go to anymore. I mean, it's so dangerous, but to be in this temple, they have these, a statue like this in Thailand too. But this is obviously the feet painted like this and carved like this with a texture. This really adds to to just a straight on shot. But also the photographer was smart enough to or skilled enough to get the head in focus too. So I've seen a lot of pictures like this where it's totally blurred here. You don't know what it is. So there's a couple of ways to do this. One was with focus stacking, or just use a wide angle lens, small aperture, and focus 1/3, although that sounds backwards, focus 1/3 into the scene. A lot of really, really cool diagonal shots here. I love old cars. I think this is an old car. Yep. Just came back from Cuba. Actually, I have a SlickPic site, which is called the iPhone Photo Experience. And I just launched that, I think, several months ago. And I have a Cuba gallery. So the person who took this picture, and the rest of you may want to go to the iPhonePhotoExperience.com and check out some of the Cuba pictures that we took with really just our iPhones. Okay, so as a musician, again, I like this picture, but you can see it's sharp here and it's not sharp here. It also looks, it could be the low resolution JPEG file, but we could see some noise here. So I would take, although again, noise can add to it, add to an image. I would just like to see everything in a picture like this a little sharper. This is an eye-catching image, right? I like the color, I like the shape, and we could probably see some things in here that we recognize, but especially around here. I think this is real. And look how this is, what's interesting, this isn't a diagonal straight line. And I think most of the pictures here are straight lines, but this is like a flowing diagonal line, which I think is really, really cool. We're gonna go through a few more. Okay. Look how sharp this is. A tip in wildlife photography: if the eye's not in focus and well lit, you've missed the shot. You and I have missed the shot. So I like that. One thing I might do here, again, your eye goes to the brightest part of the scene. I would have a sip of water. Then I would take my burn tool and I would burn down here because it's a little overexposed. I usually don't like areas of the picture that are not the main subject brighter than the subject. But I do like that type of picture. Under the bridge is really cool. But remember I mentioned boost in the contrast, that we don't want to boost the contrast to the point where the highlights are overexposed and washed out. So this water in the back, if you made a print of this, it would probably be almost as white as the paper because it's overexposed and washed out. And this is a little overexposed here. Now, the only people, by the way, who care about stuff like this is photographers, right? So, again, this is all subjective. I'm just trying to give you some tips following that cross-training idea. Listen, Manny's a big contributor here. I have to go to his site. Again, the lines are really cool, but I would have underexposed. I shoot digital like I used to shoot slide film. I always expose for the highlights because I do not ever want the highlights, almost ever, highlights overexposed and washed out. So the same thing here, nice composition. But if you made a print, in reality, the water here is the same brightness as it is here, but because it's photographed at this angle with these beautiful lenticular clouds in the sky, by the way, very nice addition. This looks white. So My guess is that even the top Photoshop experts at leading online training companies have a hard time bringing back these highlights because they're so overexposed. So here you do two things: wait for a different time of day, which is probably impractical, or shoot HDR. So since this is probably about 5 times brighter than the shadow areas here, you'd probably take 5 or 7 pictures to get that right. I'm looking for another high con, whereas in here, the highlights we still see very nice. This is called disequilibrium, by the way, where the I mentioned before where the candle or something was tilted to the left. Here, all the buildings in the back on the horizon line is tilted, but here it works for me for whatever reason. So this is called the disequilibrium effect. You could create it in Photoshop, but on site you can just tilt your camera to the left or tilt your camera to the right. Which brings up another saying by one of my friends who passed away. His name's Dr. Dick Zakia. He taught at RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology. And his tip was use your camera like a spaceship. Today would have to be updated to use your camera like a drone. But what he's saying, don't take all your pictures at eye level on a tripod. Tilt it to the left, tilt it to the right, like you saw in the crocodile or alligator picture. Move it up, move it down. Using your camera like a spaceship, I think, is really cool. Nice diagonals here. I kind of like this. There's like repeating patterns. Repeating patterns are usually a good thing. You might want to, Melanie, try cropping this as a vertical and cropping out this leaf. Some people may like it, some people may not. That's why it's all this stuff is so very, very subjective. This is in Death Valley. I like this picture. Using your camera like a spaceship, okay? This person got down really low. Follow Dr. Dick Zakia's advice and followed something else we just mentioned. Everything in the scene is in focus, from these tiny little grains we can see here to this in the background. I could be wrong, but it looks, in Lightroom, we have the lens distortion correction feature. So with wide angle lenses, sometimes we get this distortion where it looks like it's going, downhill or uphill on the left or the right. So here it's going downhill. So either it is going downhill in camera, or it could be fixed if you go into the Lightroom and do the lens correction. Not everyone, a lot of people have been to Antelope Canyon. Okay, so here's the thing. I mentioned HDR before, the contrast range. So with HDR, basically you're opening up the shadows and toning down the highlights. You could also do that manually. And actually, if the contrast range isn't too great, like it probably wasn't too great here, this probably isn't HDR. But if you open up the shadows too much, if you tone down the highlights too much, people can tell. People as old as I am, we've been around, right, Kevin? As long as I am, they could tell. Because we could see a halo, an unnatural halo here, an unnatural halo here. So this shows this beautiful picture, a nice composition that my mother told me always sandwich a criticism with a compliment. So that's what I'm doing. But it is nice. We could see those unnatural halos there. So don't basically the tip is don't overdo it. Now here the very shallow depth of field for me works. I think it might be a little overcooked, oversaturated. So that's why it looks, although Peter Max would love this. Peter Max, the pop artist from the 60s, I think it was 60s or 70s, would love this. I would try reducing the saturation just a little bit again, but I've said it more than a few times. It's all subjective. And here too, I thought it was overexposed back here, but it's snow. So if it's snow, it works. But I think I think, it is a little overexposed. So adding a little texture, by the way, to overexposed areas can help just a little. Uh, nice diagonal here. And then the last category is high key. Okay. Okay. High key, where I said before, mood matters most. Mood really does matter most in our pictures. And one way to create a mood. Oh, here's this picture here again that we saw before. One way to create a really nice, peaceful, soothing mood. If you've watched Kevin on any of these seminars, I'm totally hyper, as you could tell. Kevin is always so relaxed. He talks in a very calm voice and everything, he'd make a good golfer probably because he does everything slow. And actually, in golf, the best tip I ever got from an instructor was slow down because I was swinging like crazy. And all kidding aside, this is one thing we have to do in our photography, slow down. We're in a rush to take the picture, look at the picture, share the picture, right? If we slow down, I think it will really help us create some nice pictures. So I like all of these pictures. I like this picture, but uh, there's another one of my sayings is don't amputate the subject at the joints. It sounds funny, but it's a good way to remember it. So this horse has right at the joints, its legs are amputated. So I like the mood and the feeling. I think if this were cropped and cropped a little tighter, I would like it a little better because having the legs quote amputated is not, for me, not the best thing. I'm looking for another way to say that. I'm looking for a picture that illustrates something else, but I can't find it. Another way to think about that is when you're taking a headshot, don't decapitate the subject with the horizon line. In other words, don't place the horizon line going through the subject's neck. So all these are very nice high key. This is a beautiful picture, nice, well exposed white on white with a little dash of a yellow here. And, Jay Maisel, very famous photographer, has a book called Light, Color, and Gesture. And what he's saying is gesture is so important, and that's the movement of a subject. So we have that little bit of, the foot up here is nice gesture, and having the mouth open is very nice gesture. And we have the yellow of the eye, balancing out that. I like this little maybe intentional camera movement. This picture has a sense of mystery. And another expression is when you destroy the mystery of the photograph, this doesn't always apply, of course. And I'll say, of course, again, when you destroy the mystery of the photograph, you destroy the photograph. So this picture has a nice sense of mystery to it. There's another photograph in here. I thought that had a nice sense of mystery. Maybe it was in another one. Scott Kelby, if he saw this, he would love this. The spiral staircase. This picture has a great sense of depth and dimension, and I like the way the railing is included in here. Let me see. Well, this is I mentioned before that if any of you guys have questions, you could email me at ricksammon@mac.com. I'd like to know how Paul did this. Obviously, it's a composite, and he cloned out some stuff, but I think it's a very creative picture. However, I've heard of red wine and white wine, and this looks like green wine, but it might be really good. St. Patrick's Day is coming up, so that could be cool. And where's another eye to eye? So look at this eye to eye shot. Joey T, you did a great job here. And having this is a subjective thing. Having this could be the baby hippo in the back and the mommy protecting it, not looking too happy that Paul is there taking the picture. By the way, more people are killed in Africa by hippos than by lions and cheetahs and leopards, because people think that, they're not going to get hurt. These guys can run fast and chomp you in half. Anyway, that's a pleasant thought. I hope you're not having lunch. Anyway, I like that this is out of focus in the back. Some of these pictures, oh, look at this picture. Oh, this might be, some people might call it a dumb luck shot, but I'm sure Joey set a goal to do this. I mean, I would love to have a shot like this. I mentioned before, if the eye's not in focus and well lit, you miss the shot. Look at that. Look at that, where the eye is just right between the feathers of the wing there. And of course, uh, this is the opposite of what Ansel Adams said, kind of. He said a picture's not done, as I said, until you darken the edges, because he wants your eye to go to the center. But if you lighten the edges, a reverse vignette, this that can work too. This is really a beautiful, really a beautiful picture. So I was looking for a picture to end this on, but I don't really, I really can't pick one. But that was really nice. High key is really, really cool. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stop screen sharing. And if you guys have any questions, or if you need any more quotes, let me know.
You are the quote master for sure. I actually spent half the review session typing over here to
Oh,
capture some of those. Maybe I should just pick up the Salmonisms book and they're all there.
well, it's a Salmonisms Kelby 1 class.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
Fantastic. So, folks, I put the iPhoneExperience.com, Rick's new site on SlickPic, fabulous mobile phone photography. I put that in the chat so you can check that out. Feel free to jump in with any questions. I actually had one. I was
sure.
hoping in the high key one, or maybe the diagonals one, there was an image of a dragonfly that was sitting on a branch. I don't know if you picked up on that one, but
Okay, I'm in high key. High key.
I think it was. Oh no, I think it was diagonals. I think it was diagonals.
Diagonals. Okay, then I'll go to screen share again. Hold on. Hold on.
That was
Screen
one
share.
that struck my eye when I was walking through it, and you'll see it here.
This one.
Yeah, that one. I thought that was just super interesting in the way that you've got two diagonals there that are kind of, it's like two diagonal lines connected by this gruesome looking shape.
It is kind of weird looking, but this kind of the same tip applies here that we saw in the picture of the bird with the eyes. You know, we could see the head here going through these intricate wings here.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is really a great picture too. Again, there's so many really cool pictures. We couldn't get to all of them, but that is a really good one.
Any tips, Rick? I love the term cross training because it just I think if you go into a situation with the words cross training in your mind,
Yeah.
you're going to be on the hunt for everything in that scene, no matter which category. I was on a photo walk yesterday, and I knew at the end of the day at sunset, I was going to do long exposures of a pier going out into the water. That was my stated goal.
Yeah.
But I had to force myself for the hour and a half before that
Right.
to be thinking of other subjects and other things. And so I love the cross training. And are there any like mind tricks you can suggest that can instantly put you in that cross training mood?
Well, I just say, just think about it all the time. Like I talked about that egg, placing the egg, and seeing how the side light, front light, top light, all the different. So if you learn about that, photographing an egg, how light affects a subject, when you're looking at a person, you'll look at the person differently. You're seeing the light. And one idea is to not get enamored by the subject and really think about, how the light is falling on the subject. And again, if you're good at flower photography, close-ups, where you're thinking about depth of field, right? You're probably good at food photography, right? So if you're good at architectural photography, you're probably good at landscape photography. So we just have to keep Just the more it's just like, cross training. Now, every day, believe it or not, for the last week, I go for a walk in the morning. Then I go for well, then I take a nap. Then I go for about an hour and a half bike ride. I did 20 miles yesterday. Saw you commented. I think you commented on it. And then I do a row in the afternoon. So that's exercising my whole body to try to stay somewhat fit at my age. So, but I'm not thinking, okay, I'm pedaling, I'm using these muscles, I'm doing that. So that's what photography has to become. I'm going up to Alaska in 2 weeks, and we're going to be photographing bald eagles that can fly up to 90 miles an hour. You know, yeah, I've seen them
90.
fly. Yeah, but I've seen them fly like 40 or 50 miles an hour. If you're thinking about your ISO, your shutter speed, your aperture, you're going to miss the shot. So you have to do that cross training enough where you're working with an expensive, big camera, and it becomes like iPhone photography. You just have to point and shoot. I'm using the Sony A1 now with the 200, 600 millimeter lens, which is an awesome combo. And it took me a while to get um, the menu down. But now I'm prepared, and I told all the people who are going with me, up in Alaska, when these bald eagles are flying around, is not the time to learn your camera.
Right.
You have to do cross training at home. Photograph a squirrel. I told them, find a squirrel running around in your backyard, and or photograph a kid on a bike, or photograph a robin, whatever.
Yeah.
It has to become just
Right.
like playing guitar. You can't be looking at or the best example is a stand-up jazz bass player. The really good ones never look at their fingers, and there's no frets. In other words, these little bars that tell you where to play. It's
Yeah.
amazing to me because you could be off, because I play bass, you could be off an eighth of an inch and have a wrong note.
Oh boy. It's
So
that precise.
it's that precise. It's that precise on a stand-up bass. So anyway,
Mhm.
that's what we have to do with the
Yeah.
photocross training.
One of the things that I've been trying to train myself to do is I like to go out at pre-dawn or after dark
Yeah.
and do photography. You have to know your camera by touch and feel and location, uh, uh, so that you don't have to have the little red light, red headlight to
Well,
see what you're doing.
you're right. And can you see my phone that I'm holding here?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I have a friend, a Top Gun instructor. He was a pilot, then he became an instructor, and he would talk about it being in the cockpit, Kevin, exactly what you're talking about. He would talk about that we had to have situational awareness. We have to be aware of everything that's going on around. And he says, and you're in the cockpit of like a plane that costs $35 million or whatever. And he says, there's a lot of buttons on this little stick there. And he says, you're looking around. If you look down for a fraction of a second at your hand, you can make a pretty big mistake. So and now he's a great photographer, Hal Schmidt is his name. So he's talking about, okay, if you're going to be in that cockpit, you have to know what all these different buttons do you just said, without looking down. And it's the same thing with our cameras. If you're going to be screwing around, oh, I'm going to, on the Sony, the exposure compensation wheel is on the top. If I had to, move it away, it's going to screw it up.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Well, Rick, you've been incredibly generous with your time today, and I hope that everybody listening here live and everybody who sees this after the fact picked up a lot from your review and like I said, I was about to say the word critique, but it's more like constructive criticism. uh,
Thank you.
but no, it was just an amazing session, and from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for your time, sir.